I think we have 5:30. So we will call the Plan Commission meeting for this evening, Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 5:30. We will call that meeting to order. And our clerk, if you would please do a roll call to establish a quorum.
Hugh Zettel,
Here.
Larry Salisbury,
Here.
Jay Hutner,
Here.
Terry Riker,
Here.
Linda Wade,
Here.
Derek Daniel,
Here.
Mary Ellen Ramstaff. Here.
All right, so we all have all 7 of our Plan Commission members here tonight. Thank you. And then if our clerk could also confirm that proper notice and posting has been done of the agenda.
The agenda has been properly noticed.
All right, then when I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Mary Ellen moves.
All right,
Laird second.
okay. There be no discussion or corrections to the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, agenda adopted. Public participation. We are going to, all right, we have 2 matters on the agenda for this evening. So if you are here on a matter that is not related to Mr. Stoeger or Yes, we forgot to put on the agenda that a hearing test will be conducted this evening. Okay, so we have 2 matters on the agenda. Is anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on a non-agenda item? So anything other than the Stoeger or short-term rental maps? Okay. So you will be allowed to address the Plan Commission, ask your questions or whatever, following Mr. Stoeger's presentation, okay? So approving our previous minutes from May 13th of 2021. I believe you have the corrected, there were a few additions made. I believe you were all provided with the most recent draft, so I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes and place on file.
I move for approval.
All right. Terry, and second by
Second.
Derek. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. All right, then we will go on to our new business, which is a request from Mr. Charles Stoeger to rezone 5.86 acres from its current estate zoning to mixed-use commercial to establish a commercial storage facility on parcel number 022-03-07-2827-43A3, which is located on Highway 57, just north of the Valmy area. So all Plan Commission members were provided with Mr. Stoeger's packet consisting of his application, the general criteria regarding zoning hearings in Door County and the considerations that we use in evaluating petitions to rezone. And we were provided with a site plan or location for the rezoning area request. We were provided with the current zoning map showing the current zoning. Also an aerial photo of the parcels and surrounding parcels, and a drawing of the proposed commercial building. In order to establish a commercial building, it would require a zoning change from estate to mixed use, and it would still require a conditional use permit. You are also provided with the staff report from Door County Land Use Services Department. And again, some other zoning maps, future land use map, also the zoning districts and the uses that are allowed in those districts. So I guess at this point, I would ask Mr. Stoeger to explain his request, and we'll go from there.
All right.
Would you just state your name and address for the record, Chuck? State your name and address for the record,
Charles
please.
Stoeger, 5107 Brewer Road, Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, 54235. We had listed this land, we bought it from Mrs. Roger Anschutz. I don't remember exactly what year. And we listed it for 3 years, my wife and I. And we did not sell it. So when the listing ran out, we decided to keep it with the intention of retiring and building a type of facility on it. And she passed, but anyway, that's my goal, and which is to pass on to my son, because he's 37 now. And I kept that land in the scope of the township zoning circle, which I believe was from 2019. And what want to do is I'm trying to build a new business to retire from farming and support with my wood business that I've been doing for 38 years. I am currently farming 170 of 340 acres and would like to stop for next year. It would be better tax revenue for the township and would serve the public with safe and secure storage, non-lit, other than solar lighting on the front corners of the buildings for protection. And also, I would like to state that I've been born and raised in this community for 57 years plus, paying taxes since I was 20. And I also donated from the family, the original town grader, to the town of Sevastopol, which is currently on the front lawn. I have no intention of selling it.
Are you finished? Are you finished?
Yep, I'm finished.
Okay, so no intention of selling that parcel?
Yeah, I was questioned about if I'd wanted to get it changed to commercial so I could turn around and sell it and make more money. That's not what I want to do. I want to retire from farming after this fall, and I want that business along with my wood business for my income. And it's going to be passed on to my son. He's 37. He's the top pressman in the world for Seaway Printing. And he's a homeboy, and he eventually will get involved with me and either take it over, and event something happens to me, it'll be passed on to him.
Okay, I'm going to look to the members here. Shall we have our our input from our neighbors that are here? Or do you want to ask some questions first, or do you want to hear what the neighbors have to say, and then I guess we could address all questions later? Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Who would like to go first? Mr. Williams? Would you like to go first?
I will. My name is Michael Williams. I live at 5040 State Highway 57. My property is adjacent to the property in question to the east. I have 40 acres there. I sent a letter to Amy. I don't know if all of you received my letter. I won't waste your time reading it. The one thing I want to say about what Mr. Stoeger has just said is he listed that property, he offered it to me, and I said that I would be happy to purchase it if the price was reasonable. This price for that 7.73 acres was $55,000, which at the time I thought was very unreasonable for land that is on bedrock. There's only about 12 inches or 13 inches of soil there. Like I said, my wife and I are totally opposed to this, and we hope you will take my letter into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the Plan Commission was provided with 3 pieces of correspondence from neighbors. It was distributed to everyone. All right. Chris?
My name is Christine Brower. We live at 4975 Highway 57. directly across the road from Chuck's parcel. And we're strongly against the rezoning of this tax parcel from agriculture to commercial. This is a very serious situation. Have you taken into consideration the probability of the traffic hazard this will create? We live right across the highway, and we observe the daily traffic flow and dangers of this section of the highway. Adding a commercial driveway to an already dangerous section would be devastating. We have lived here for over 50 years. People do not observe the speed limit. Different times I've been afraid to turn in my driveway for fear I was going to get rear-ended. This specific area has been classified as a scenic route. It is used by many to get to Clark's Lake, Cave Point, Whitefish Dunes State Park, and north. Storage units lining the highway are not scenic. Please consider rejecting the rezoning of this tax parcel and all future requests for rezoning of this section of the highway. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley?
Good evening, thank you. My name is Jeff Bradley, and my wife Sarah and I reside at 4983 State Highway 57, directly across the street from the proposed rezoning. We are opposed to the rezoning of this property from estate to the mixed-use commercial. We are opposed for the following reasons. One, the entrance of the proposed commercial venture lies along a stretch of Highway 57 where the speed increases from 45 to 55 miles an hour. This means that the increased traffic, vehicles would be slowing down to make a turn into the proposed facility, causing undue hazard, vehicular hazard. In addition, along this very same stretch, a passing zone commences, inviting vehicles not only to increase their speed, but also consider passing traffic after having slowed down through the Welsings Market curve. The proposed rezoning would take place on a commercial driveway, would place a commercial driveway right across from our driveway, causing undue hazards, potentially vehicles turning in our driveway, trying to navigate across into the driveway across the street. We propose rezoning creates a commercial island in an area of residences. The property adjacent to, across from the property in question are all residential, surrounded by residences. The rezoning financially benefits one sole individual at the expense of all of the residents who live near and around this commercial venture. We as residents, not the developer, will live with the disadvantages of the proposed storage units and gain nothing from its creation. The rezoned property will stand in stark contrast to the rural and residential aesthetics of surrounding it, especially along the recently designated scenic Highway 57. The proposed rezoning opens the door to 80 tenants who have little concern for or investment into Sevastopol Township. Finally, 7, proposed rezoning raises concerns of crime and break-ins to storage units that are unsupervised, adding to the concerns of residents who surround this property. We urge you to adhere to the current zoning of this property as a state. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I'm in favor of Mr. Stoeger being able to.
Would you state your name and address again, please?
Kim Daniel, 4451 Whitefish Road. I am in favor of Mr. Stoeger being allowed to provide for his family and to partake in a new business adventure. Storage units are not a high traffic area, and I don't think that traffic would increase that much. Number 3, it's obviously going to increase tax revenue for the town. There would be sales and use tax. His property taxes would increase, so that would be a win for the town. And he's already stated that he was going to provide security lighting on the front of the building. So I don't think that that would be a major issue as well.
All right, thank you all.
I'd like to
Mr.
say a couple
Brower?
words yet,
Yes.
please. I'm Robert Brower. I live right across the road from the property too. And I'll tell you something. You have no idea how bad the traffic is, and you have no idea how many accidents you're gonna cause by doing this. He owns a lot of land. He can put a storage building anywhere he wants to, but not in the traffic zone of all these cars. I cannot believe that they'd even consider it. This is not even a shoulder on the road. And then you want to put it's an accident ready to happen. You're going to have more accidents there than you ever thought of having. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's unbelievable. People getting hurt, people getting injured and killed, and what, just for that reason, because you want to change it from agriculture to commercial? If that's the case, go out in the country off the beaten trail. Put your goddamn storage bins out there. Why put it right on a highway where there's so many? Take a tally of how many cars go by there one day. You'll never believe it. It's a disaster. I gotta watch out when I turn on my driveway, it's so busy. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
John?
John DeNeal, 4451 is my shop business, 4407 is my house. The unfortunate part about what's going on is it falls within that circle that the county and the town has put as an industrial circle in certain vicinities between Valmy, Institute, C&W area. And I understand the part where everybody's talking about traffic and slowing down and speeding up and all this. It comes down to the bottom line. His tax base is gonna jump probably 15 times what he's paying now, plus the tax that he's gonna have to pay in off of renting the units out. I honestly don't think the crime is gonna go up in Valmy any more than it has, because if all the neighbors knew exactly all the crime that was going on in Valmy, they'd really be crying about something else. My honest opinion, if you guys turn this down, you're turning down money for the town that you'll never get back again. So I'm definitely in favor for it.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. If he has 7.73 acres, why is he only asking for 5 point whatever acres? What's going to happen with that other acreage?
Well, I can tell you exactly what's going to
Thank
happen,
you.
because I did pose that question to Door County Land Use. So my question to them was, if the southern 5.86 acres of this parcel were rezoned to mixed commercial, does the northern 1.87 acres remain estate, even though it does not meet the 5-acre minimum estate requirement? And the response was, yes, that is correct. We take the total area of the parcel or the lot into consideration when determining if it is buildable or not. So if there are 2 acres zoned estates and 3 acres zoned wetland, as long as the total acreage is 5 acres, it would still fall within that estate zoning. Okay, does that answer? John?
I got one more question. I don't know if I should direct it to you or Chuck. Are you gonna be planting any kind of trees, anything to put a buffer zone between the highway, anything, any kind of, greenage, trees that are gonna grow quick that's gonna put a buffer zone so nobody can either see a side of the building, front of the building, or anything like that?
We're definitely going to get to that. If you wanted to give a
Yes, there
quick
will be,
response, Chuck.
there will be pyramid cedars according to the plan, every 10 feet in front of the highway. And the other thing I'd like to note is that the state is in charge of where the driveway would go. And it would be best if, logically, if the whole field was put into mixed commercial, and it would get the driveway up farther, and 45 could be put farther beyond that as well. But I guess that's up to the state.
Well, we'll ask those kind of questions on the highway and the driveway as well. So who would like to, which end do we want to start on for questions? Terry? Yeah. Well, we're going to start on this.
Can I say one more thing, please?
Oh.
Right, say you put a bunch of trees up there. Well, all that's gonna do is block the traffic from when they pull out. They're gonna be oncoming cars at 60, 70 miles an hour. That would be really nice too. That would be very nice. Yeah, put up a bunch of trees. Why don't you have more accidents right away?
Okay.
It's a bad spot.
All right, let's let the Plan Commission ask our questions, which will probably answer a lot of your questions, and then we'll follow up with you all when we're done, okay? All right, so,
You don't know if it's questions or you want my opinion?
well, both, I guess.
Both?
We can discuss, and you can give an opinion, sure.
Well, if you look at the considerations for evaluating the petition, and you look at the 7 items, the request does not check positively any of those boxes. You've got either estate, agriculture, or higher density residential on about 90% of the perimeter of that piece. And if you look at the definition for estate zoning, it's 5 acres, large open areas for quiet and visual attractive residential. So, I know that storage areas are pretty, overall pretty benign. Nobody's living there and you don't get a lot of traffic. But based on what's required of us, and I look at the zoning around it there, I'm inclined to not go along with the zoning change.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part. Sorry, Jerry, what was just the very last thing you said?
I said I was inclined to not go along with the zoning change.
Okay. Sorry, I just didn't hear it.
Well, the driveway in seems to be a big question mark. They
Okay,
haven't told you where it's gonna
Okay,
be?
excuse me. Now, since we don't have name tags up, maybe our public would like to know who we are. I'm Linda Waite. Terry Riker. So
Jay
we-
Hubner.
okay.
Jay Hubner.
All right, okay, go ahead, Jay. And then you can introduce yourself as we go along. Okay, I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
We have the one drawing that has the driveway on there, but are you saying
No,
the
that won't be used.
state has not?
I don't think the state would move it away from the hill farther to the north.
How far along opposite of you are there residential houses? The entire way?
Directly across
You,
Yes, directly across from that property.
my house.
Is you're that entire area?
I own the part of the land right across the front, I guess.
Okay.
if you look at the aerial, you can
Yeah.
kind of see where the houses are. I think it's about the 6th page in of our packet. You can see the houses.
There is no housing though towards the point of the triangle really at this point, right? Also, I guess if I look at this drawing here, the Stoeger, do you own that entire blue area? Like this area down in here as well?
No, that's Mr. Williams up on the east of me.
Just the triangle you own?
I own the triangle, and he has an right of way across the driveway on the tip, northern tip.
Okay.
An easement, I guess we call
Yeah,
it.
okay.
There are Stoeger parcels to the east of the blue. There's 2 parcels
Yes,
shown
east
up.
of Mr. Williams is my mother.
In the
Owns
yellow.
40 acres and a 20-acre parcel.
Okay. Well, I guess I was just confused. It looks to me like it says Stoeger Trust owns all this property.
There, I can
That's just the
tell
zoning.
you.
Okay.
So Mr. Stoeger owns the triangle. Mike and Penny Williams own, is that a 20 or a 40? A 40 there in the blue. And then Coella owns this 20. And then we have Grotius owning this 20.
Okay.
And Mr. Bradley is across the street in the yellow. And Browers are the little triangle, or the little rectangle. Okay? That helps.
Okay. Well, I do agree that's a dangerous traffic area. I don't think there's any question on that. And I guess with those complaints, and unless if, I don't know, even if your entrance driveway is way up to the north, it's still a very busy, dangerous area of traffic, and I guess at this point, without knowing specifically where that driveway is gonna go, I would probably not be in favor of it.
That one we won't know until the state comes and looks at it. I can't have an answer for you on that. That has
Yeah.
to be come in sequence with the permit issues.
And I do think, obviously, I'm sure the neighbors, and I think we have actual requirements for trees that have to buffer those, aren't they? Counties requiring that?
That would be part of the conditional use permit that
Yeah.
we would be allowed to, or the land use would be able to set conditions, and buffering and screening is normal practice.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
I'm Hugh Zuttle. I kind of would echo Terry's comments relative to the considerations in evaluating the petition. The other thing that I did is I looked at the Town of Sevastopol Comprehensive Plan to look at land use. And, you know, on page 16, it talks about country living as a primary land use. And on page 19, where it talks about the smart growth areas, Valmy and Institute, and looking at future growth, it should be consistent with the character of these communities, you know, while limiting conflicts with the existing uses. And I think this really conflicts with the existing uses in the kind of the state zoning as well as the residential zoning. And also echoing Jay, that is a dangerous area from a safety perspective from the road. You know, the people don't adhere to the 45 limit even in Valmy, and they treat it like a NASCAR going left and then just accelerating going up the hill. That's a tricky area to try to manage. The only other thing from an aesthetics, while the county has requirements, you know, because we dealt with this the last during the cut process for the other chalet when that transitioned, right? While they have trees, I think just from an aesthetics and quality of life perspective, if you have something that's available 24/7 and you have cars coming in, you know, day or night, depending on where that entrance is, if that entrance is near where the properties across the street, you know, have their entrances, and you have, you know, light shining in the house or those sorts of things, depending on where they put the road, you know, that is a quality of life consideration too that I would be concerned about. Thank you.
I'm Laird Salisbury. I share the concerns, particularly with regard to where the driveway is going to be located, which, as you have indicated, we won't know until the state determines that. And I also share Hugh's concerns regarding our 20-year plan, which we put an awful lot of work into in terms of trying to keep areas within the bounds of what we have them set up as. And I don't really like to make exceptions to that unless there's a really compelling need. That's all I have.
Okay, Mary Ellen Ramstack. I agree with what I've heard from my fellow commissioners. Rezoning is really a tricky situation. It's something you don't, want to do all the time. The thing here is that you wish to put a storage unit here. If the property is rezoned, my understanding is, should you or your son, if he inherits or wish to not have a storage building, any of the other uses that are permitted by a mixed commercial could enter there. Auto repair, banks, car washes, commercial, there's a multitude of things. It isn't just the storage building, it's just if it is rezoned to mixed commercial, then now we're in the future, that could be used as another one of many mixed commercials
Yes,
that qualify, et cetera,
May I
et
answer
cetera.
that? It will not get, I have a house, Jeffrey has a house, it will not get used for other than future expansion. That's all it will be used for. That's the primary use of that, what that land will be. There
Well,
will
you
be no
talk
other-
about,
there
you
will
have
be-
a house, he has a house, but you're talking about a commercial enterprise you want to put on there, storage buildings.
Yeah.
There's no houses mentioned.
No, and I don't plan on building a house on, I wouldn't want to live on the highway either.
Okay, so why do you mention you have a house in,
have-
I just don't
I live on
understand that, I'm trying to make a
5107 Brower Road.
connection.
I
Pardon
live on
me?
5107 Brower Road, which is off the highway.
Oh, okay.
And I have a farmhouse at 4698 Clarks Lake Road.
Okay, I was trying to make the
Mm-hmm.
connection to the piece, the parcel that you were talking about, and I wasn't getting it. The other thing is, I think it was John mentioned about the circle and the whatnot. The comprehensive plan is a plan, which, may not come to fruition. It's just a look-see at the whole area, and I'm hesitant to agree to this. The people right around you, the land, the farm, everything around you, it's a picture, it's a character, it's a neighborhood, and I'm leaning towards not being able to
But
vote
it
in favor.
is in the town's future plan of scope of rezoning.
Possibility.
It is in it. It's in the picture there. The circle that the township drew for future expansion of mixed commercial. It's in the colored picture.
Yeah, this you're speaking about.
Yeah, no, yeah. Actually, that's a more current one. Or no, does that cut the tip of the field off? Okay, then that's.
No, it does not.
Okay, that's
The tip is there.
even a more current one.
Well, that's all I have to say right now.
You good?
Yes, I'm finished.
Derek Danielle, my main concern is with the driveway. Looking at the highway, there's a single no passing zone, all the way up through the hill, up until probably the last 200 feet of that triangle. So being a mixed commercial zone, the DOT is not gonna allow a driveway anywhere in that no passing zone. And depending on what they want for footage between, would be the main concern. I'm not opposed to the storage units. It is within the growth of Valmy area, so that does not bother me at all.
What was your answer?
I'd like to see what the DOT
What
says on the
DOT does,
driveway,
Yeah, I am curious to see too.
but I think it's gonna be closer to the tip of that triangle.
It'll be farther, I know it'll be farther north, it'll probably be well past the 45.
And depending on if they make you pave a turn lane in there too. Depending if they make you pave a turn lane,
Yeah.
that could be the other possibility that they would require.
Derek, I have a question on and Mr. Stoeger said about, by the tip, that is not in question. That's not the rezoned section.
No, no.
Are you saying that you suspect a driveway might go in
There's gonna be access.
outside of the 5.86?
It may or it may not.
Yeah,
It all depends on what the state says.
because I know you said the northern end. I didn't know if you were referring to the northern end of the 5.86
Yeah.
or the northern end of the entire property.
Okay, my turn. Linda, wait, Ian. I did some background checking on the parcels in that neighborhood. And those parcels were zoned R1, which is residential, between 1985 and 1995. And for some reason, it was changed to mixed commercial in 1995, and I think that was sort of an arbitrary assignment, because that is when the town of Sevastopol adopted county comprehensive zoning. And I even looked for board minutes to see if the board had any input as to that zoning change, and I couldn't find anything. So I also looked at our comprehensive plan update, and we've said this many, many times, the majority of our residents are content with the rural residential nature of the town and would like to see country living continue as a primary land use. That's in our comprehensive plan. And as far as business goes, we try to be sure that it meets the needs of both the residents of the town and other traffic. And then Mr. Stoeger mentioned our circle, which is also on the county comprehensive plan, which indicates possible for future use as mixed commercial or business type atmosphere. I'm kind of surprised that you didn't check with the DOT first, because you're not dividing the parcel. You just have one parcel, and normally on the highway, you're only allowed one driveway.
That was the
So-
way I was told to go about it. That was the third part of the criteria. First it was the town, then it went to the counties, from the county, it got sent to the state. That's what I was told at the zoning office.
So I, you know, maybe your request is just a little mature until you would actually hear from the
If I can
DOT
get, if I
that you
can get the
can have a
state there to
driveway.
answer these questions,
Right,
if I can have contact to get the state there to answer these questions, I'd certainly do that.
right. Because you might, right now, the existing driveway, which is in the northern part of the triangle, is also the easement to Mr. Williams' property.
No, there's a driveway in front of Mr. Bradley's house.
No, I looked at the description
Well,
for
maybe-
your
maybe-
property and
I
Mr. Will, you have an easement, correct? Across the triangle to get to your property, and that easement also serves the parcel behind you, correct? Or to the east of you, right. So I'm just thinking the DOT, you know, if you're gonna ask for a different driveway, they might ask you to abandon that current driveway, which would, you know, preempt, I mean, you can't deny somebody access to
Well,
your
no,
property.
he has the legal easement,
Right,
right?
yeah. But I'm just saying, the DOT, I wouldn't be surprised if they say, well, you have to abandon one driveway if you want a different driveway. So that would definitely be a question that we'd want answered. And then I also agree with Ms. Ramstack. Once you change zoning, and you were all provided with the different uses that can happen under mixed commercial, and right now, that parcel is surrounded by residential homes. Even though some of those parcels are zoned mixed commercial, like on the east side of the highway. Yep, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 parcels that are zoned mixed commercial, but they're either vacant or they're used as residential. And across the street, we have Estate, and we have SS20, and we have Prime A. So I don't see that changing. A zoning change is conducive to what's currently happening in that area. So I would not be in favor of a zoning change at this time. Any other questions or points that we want to talk? Or Mr. Stoeger, is there anything else you want to comment on that we should consider, that we've forgotten about? Oh, I also want to mention that I did go view the property, and I made the mistake of doing this on a Saturday afternoon. I pulled into Mike's driveway, and I think it took me, which was a big mistake, because then I had to back out onto the highway. I think I sat there for about 15 minutes, so I can understand when you talk about the traffic. Yes, there is a lot of traffic. So.
Well, I went yesterday to view the land, forgetting totally about the road construction. I couldn't get off and out of there until County I. I had to keep going north. And I thought, now, I talked to myself, I said, you decided to go on Monday because you would miss the weekend traffic. Well, it was, yeah, it was quite an adventure, to say the least.
And I have a couple more questions, please.
Sure.
If it's rezoned mixed commercial, can the stipulation be put on the property that it can only be commercially used as storage units? I know that parallel 44, when they were rezoned, there were several stipulations put on their property, and I didn't know if that was something that would be an option. Also, you mentioned an easement that Mr. and Mrs. Williams have. Does that current easement run across Chuck's property?
Yes, it does, right? The very
Yes.
tip of the the driveway runs across the tip of the triangle back to Mr. Williams' lot. I do not know the answer to that question, Kim. If you can place a stipulation, I think you could place a stipulation that as long as it's under the current owner, the only use allowed would be a storage building. But I have a feeling that once it changes hands or it's titled differently, the use could be changed to whatever is allowed under mixed commercial. Mr. Chairman, would you agree with that? That current owner might have a stipulation, but a future owner may not?
I don't know the answer to be 100%, so that would be a question for someone.
I'm pretty certain that
It's always been a
once,
concern, but that's,
I'm pretty certain that if a current owner is granted a conditional use permit to use that as commercial storage, a future owner is granted that same permission to use it as a commercial storage, but that's not to say that they couldn't do something else with it as well. I think that's the way it goes. So.
And I would imagine if the state came in and the state approved a driveway, they would not do so without taking into consideration the safety part of it. So I would think that the driveway placement would be a huge step for Mr. Stoeger.
Right. I did not notice where the 45 mile per hour changes to 55.
I didn't catch it either.
Just beyond Heidi
Mr.
Tykes.
Stoeger?
Just beyond Heidi Tykes' house.
Just beyond
Right
Heidi's
at
house?
the end of, next door to Bob, right probably 200 feet in Chuck's off the
That's where the speed
south
limit
property
changes?
line.
All right.
It's about a third, at the most a third of the way from the south to the north.
Would your request be that it be in the 45
Wherever
mile per hour zone?
wherever the state would take into consideration, it would be safe, yeah.
And those stakes that are sitting there now, I have a feeling, are just for
Them or
the,
for some lawyer or
the
something, I don't
current
know.
highway
Yeah, that's got nothing to do
construction,
with me.
shouldering and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
no.
Linda, one more question. Maybe the town should take it upon themselves, seeing that you have numerous neighbors complaining about the speed on the corner. Maybe the town should take it upon themselves, and the planning commission take it upon themselves to talk to the state and have the speed limit drop down beyond that point. This has been an ongoing question for me for years. I know personally that the speed on all the roads there are terrible. Maybe the town and the planning commission should take it upon themselves, because you guys actually are working on $5 bills. You guys should approach the state and tell them to drop the speed limit. The highway runs through our town, I understand that, the state funds it, I get that. But you have now 3 people sitting alongside of me that are also complaining about the speeds on that highway. Maybe it should be dropped down to 35 like it is in Jacksonport. Maybe it's a heck of an idea that all these people have.
And I know that depends on density as well, so to drop a speed limit, you have to have so many houses within so many feet in order to,
But you also
Get a
have,
reduced
you also
speed
have the
limit.
gas station there, which is extremely busy, which I agree coming into, Valmy, it should be dropped to 35. Because people do come up over that hill and they start breaking 45 at the crest of the hill. I agree with that. But it should be down to 35 anyway for, with the business, gas station there.
well, that could be something that we could bring to the town board for discussion purposes. Okay,
Hey, Linda?
yes,
One question if I could.
sure.
I'll tell you what, the bottom line is this. It couldn't be in a worse place. It couldn't be. Because then you're gonna see accidents. You just, if that goes through, you're gonna see so many accidents, you'll never believe it. And then you're gonna wonder, people paralyzed, crippled and everything, for the sake of having a couple storage bins, when he's got all kinds of land, other places that he can put them up. Why even think about it? It's unbelievable.
I have one more question, Mr. Stoeger. Did you do a market study? I think was this 20 or 20 units? How many units? How many storage units?
I believe it was on there for 40.
40 units, okay, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember if it's 40 or 20.
Mhm.
Did you do a market study at all to see if the community can even, is there a need for additional storage space? We just have a brand-new one at the chalet storage.
You won't find a unit that is available of anything built in the county.
Okay. All right,
Most of the units are the ones that are, there's 6 buildings going up by Robatories on 42, just north of Big Harbor. And I was told there was only 2 of those units left available. There's 2 more big buildings going up by the gas station, BP in Carlsville. And I was told
That's
that
right.
those were all spoken for as well. So that should answer your question.
that's right. I did see that Egg Harbor was having a hearing on that. And then north of Egg Harbor. Okay, members. I guess I would entertain a motion for a recommendation to the town board, or we can look at, I would like everyone to take a look at the considerations in evaluating petitions to rezone. It's on page 3 of your packet. And the land use did answer those questions as well. That's included in your packet. Mr. Riker had mentioned them. Was the existing district due to mistake? No. Have circumstances changed for this property or surrounding properties? I would say no. We looked at the adjacent properties, how they're zoned and used. Is the land area large or small? Almost 8 acres. I'm not sure if that's large or small parcel. Fit the plan guidelines for the property. Economically benefit one property owner or a small group of property owners. Or overriding public good to be gained by rezoning. So I hope that you've all taken a look at that and considered it. Okay, what is your pleasure?
Table it until we hear a final answer on the driveway.
What was that?
We table it until we get an answer on the driveway location.
Okay, let's hold that thought for a moment, because the cover letter from Land Use tells us that they will start their hearing process within 3 weeks after June 21st, so let's just say July 15th for easy numbers. Did they indicate to you at all that their decision was going to be pertinent or dependent upon where the DOT set?
No, I was just told from the zoning office that that was the 3rd step. Otherwise, I would have went to the state right away and done that. If I can be put in touch with the state, I'll be on it tomorrow. and I will get the answers for you.
Because if we voted on that motion, Derek, I'm just afraid that, I'm not sure it would have any standing with the RPC, and they would just go ahead and have their hearing, and then we wouldn't have any recommendation at all. Mr. Chairman, would you care to comment?
I think you're right on the money.
Right,
You know,
that
we
they'll
give
just go
one
ahead and have a hearing.
One opportunity to do that. If it doesn't get resolved prior to their date, then you have no input.
We have no input.
Plus, if this gets changed, it has to come back as a conditional use. Which will require a different hearing and a different set of guidelines,
Right.
so.
Yeah, we're actually looking at several steps here. So right now, it's a recommendation to the town board on whether or not there's a zoning change, and then the town board will make its recommendation to land use. So that will be the first step, the zoning request. And then the second step, if zoning change is granted, would be conditional use, the set of conditions that we would recommend and the town board would recommend. So Derek, would you like to draw your motion, or do you want to? I mean, it is a big question mark. The location of that driveway is a very big question.
It's very understandable, but if I would have been told that right away, that's what I would have done.
Have you thought about withdrawing your application or just postponing it?
No,
I don't know if that's
I want to
an
talk
option.
to the state. I'll keep the drawing I got. But it does not show any driveway access on here, so that could be redrawn up after I get what I can get done from the state, if that's what you're asking for or looking for.
When you say it's not on the drawing,
Because it is
it's on the site plan.
Right.
Oh, it is on, well, he must
It
have,
is.
that must be the existing driveway across from Mr. Bradley's, and I wouldn't put that there. It would be north of that.
This is there's a drawing from Forest Construction that shows a driveway. I would say it is across from.
It'd be on the 4893 fire number, is that Bravo? Or
4893 is right.
Yeah, is yours.
Yes.
I'm guessing.
So it's just,
Yes.
like some gravelly type, kind of looks like a driveway. There's no culvert or anything like that.
No, it's just like
It was maybe a farm equipment access
a grass
driveway.
driveway, which is what Mr. Anschutz used for when it was orchard.
All right, when was the last time that driveway was used?
Oh, it gets used for cutting hay and taking hay out of there. It was used about a week ago.
And that,
I believe Roger Anschutz put that culvert and that driveway in for farm use when he had the orchard there.
okay. All right, do you think that was maybe before DOT had limitations on the number of driveways and location of driveways?
Yeah, I wasn't
Like
even
50 years
aware.
ago, or
I wasn't even aware there was a culvert there.
is there a culvert there?
I believe there is.
So, I guess the marked part on the site plan is the farm road, not supposed to be an entrance exit to your proposed.
No, I would like to see it move north farther. I don't want the entrance on exit and
But
entrance. in front.
is that showing what's there now, is what I'm getting at?
Right.
Oh, okay,
Showing
that's what you
was
call
used-
farm road.
Right, that's what was
Okay.
being used for the hay now and what Mr. Anschutz
Okay.
established.
All right. I was just trying to figure out, because it did indicate in some of the paperwork here that there was a driveway and a farm road.
Yeah.
I saw the driveway up to the real
Mhm.
tip, but I couldn't find the farm road,
Mhm.
so that's what you would call
I
the farm
understand
road,
that.
okay. Just trying to clear up what I was looking at.
Is that parcel on the Sevastopol Sanitary District? Are you on the Sevastopol Sanitary?
No.
None of you are on the Sevastopol Sanitary District.
That's correct.
Kind of isn't.
That parcel should be close to it, Linda, because the lots that are lotted out behind there that that Donna Peterson owned. The sanitary pumps right up to it.
And Amy
Really
just said,
close. And there's roads that are actually, if you look under
Plotted.
overview,
Yep.
they're in there, just not cut in yet.
yep, they're platted or plotted, and Amy just said that Heidi Tike's house is not on the sanitary district.
Correct.
So right now, public sewer does not go with that farm. Okay.
Based on the information we have right now, I guess I would recommend to the town board that the request be denied.
That's a good way to state it, based on the information available to us now.
I'll second that motion.
And it was to not support the zoning request.
That's correct.
And second by you. All right, so we have a motion which states, based on the information before us now, the recommendation would be that the town board not support the zoning request or the rezone request, correct?
Yep.
And we have a second. Any other discussion or questions or anything? All right, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion is unanimously carried. I would ask that you all look at the recommendation form. It's a recommendation form that the Plan Commission is going to submit to the town board at a future meeting. So this is regarding Mr. Stoeger's request to rezone from estate to mixed-use commercial, a certain portion of that parcel. So it would be the town planning, or the Planning Commission of the town of Sevastopol held a meeting legally noticed tonight, and by a vote of 7 aye and 0 nay, the Plan Commission recommends denial of the petition to the town board. So the reason for the Plan Commission's decision, I took some notes. Traffic and safety was certainly a concern, correct?
Yes.
The lack of information regarding the driveway.
Lack of information on the driveway. Let's see. Does not fit the surrounding area or the surrounding use. The change would not be compatible with the current use, put it that way. Let's see, retaining the estate would be consistent and limit conflict among neighboring properties.
What was it?
Maintaining the current zoning would be consistent and limit conflicts in surrounding properties. I believe, Hugh, you said something to that effect.
Yeah, and really what I was citing was actually almost verbatim from the comprehensive zone plan, and you can almost use that language and just cite the pages if you wanted to that for that statement.
There was another comment about lights shining, but that could probably fall under, or traffic. Concerned with the driveway location. concerned with other uses that are permitted if a zoning change were to take place?
Yes, that was my,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That I think we covered this, surrounding parcels are residential, more of a neighborhood type and not commercial.
and those neighbors spoke for denial also. And I don't know if that's relevant to, but it was a consensus of the neighborhood, the immediately surrounding.
Yeah. Immediate neighbors expressed
Immediate,
concern or do not support a
Right.
zoning change. Okay, is the proposal consistent with the town's comprehensive plan? Who would like to answer that one, or who would like to throw out?
Somewhat?
Someone?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah,
Somewhat. Yes.
Getting big enough?
Well, I think, future,
It's in the circle, so it's,
yeah, the Door County Comprehensive Land Ordinance indicates future development in that area. So it is somewhat consistent.
Yeah, but on the
I'm
bottom
not
of
sure.
page 19, I'm sorry, Linda, bottom of page 19, where it talks about mixed use specifically, and
Okay.
it says future growth in these areas, citing these smart growth areas. Future growth in these areas should be consistent with the character of these communities while limiting conflicts with the existing land use as well. We have a conflict because we have residential area all the way around, and
We could just state that right from, it's on the bottom of page 19 of the comprehensive plan, Amy. Okay, concerns or objections the town may wish to see potentially addressed through modifications. This brings to mind, so we talked about the winery. So they were successful in their zoning change from prime egg to, I forgot, general egg? I think from prime egg to general egg.
Because it was a
So,
winery.
right, so, and a farm market / winery was allowed in general egg. So even though the majority of the board did not support that, they did make the zoning change, and we kind of lost our opportunity to submit conditions that we would like to see. So, do we want to say anything about conditions if the zoning change is granted, or do we just want to save that for later?
so you're saying we lose our place in line if we don't put conditions down now? Just in case?
Well, maybe something to the effect that if a zoning change were to happen, the plan commission would want to recommend certain conditions. I don't know.
certainly the driveway location. Right? You want to see that somewhere, where it is, we don't even know where it is right now.
Well, let's just, okay, concerns or objections. Okay, concerns is the driveway location.
Well, the traffic,
Yep, traffic.
but apparently we don't have control over the speed limit.
That's- Well,
Character,
that's-
current, I think maybe we're just repeating ourselves. Maybe we can just see reasons above
Yep,
for our recommendation. See reasons above, how's that?
good.
Linda, when did we get in that area, when was that designated scenic byway?
February,
Of this year?
yes. So we now have National
Okay.
Scenic, yes, February of this year.
So-
We have a ribbon cutting Thursday afternoon. It was designated National Scenic Byway by the Federal Highway Department in February of 2021.
And obviously that is after the comprehensive plan. Does does the county resource planning commission, do they have any information relative to stipulations of what scenic byway means relative to land use or zoning requirements?
There are certain restrictions on signage if you're on a scenic byway, but I'm not aware of any restrictions on use of property along the byway. Would you like to add that as a reason?
Yeah, well, I would think I would just, just get clarification on, are there other criteria,
Okay.
that would impact
So-
zoning considerations because of the designation?
Concern for National Scenic Byway restrictions or
We knew signage was one because of the
restrictions
the
slash
electronic billboard
signage. Yeah, okay.
situation, but I don't know if there's anything else from a zoning.
So if we add that to a reason, underneath reasons, concern for National Scenic Byway restrictions slash signage?
Or just unknown if there are any restrictions and making sure that we're not,
If any?
if any, yeah.
Can we,
All right.
I'm still concerned about the speed limit aspect and what can or
Oh,
cannot be
okay.
done.
Speed
I would
limit.
like
We'll
to,
add speed
maybe,
limit.
instead of the generic traffic, that could be what, quantity, speeds, et cetera. I'd like that kind of worked in there so
Sure.
they're aware that that should be looked at.
Okay, so we'll add that to reasons for our decision? Speed,
It's one of my
traffic
reasons.
and speed limits?
Traffic includes speed,
Yeah, traffic and speed limits.
Right.
Traffic including speed limits.
right?
Is that, I'm sorry.
That's right. Didn't we not, as part of the winery, were they not required to get the DOT to do a traffic survey study? I believe that was part of the requirement in order to determine whether they needed a turn lane or not there. So you may, if you're talking about traffic, that may be a better way to address that.
Good thought.
Recommend traffic study? Recommend DOT traffic study? We'll get that in there somewhere.
And I would sort of clarify that, just from some of the comments, including the speed limit through Valmy. Because I think there's kind of a question of lowering that from 45 to 35.
All right, any other comments that you can think of that maybe we should put in there? Again, the town board will hear this. Will this be on the agenda for Monday evening? It'll be heard by the town board Monday evening. Our meeting starts at 7 PM right here. Anybody's welcome to attend.
That's June 21st, correct?
June 21st, correct.
I think we got it.
All right. All right, thank you all for coming. Again, Mr. Stoeger, Monday evening, 7 PM. Okay, so, moving on to our pending business. Once again, the short-term rental ordinance. There was one tweak as before we get into that, well, I guess it doesn't matter. There was one tweak that our attorney recommended, and that was the deletion, to find my draft here, of about 4 or 5 words on page, help me out here, page 2, bottom of page 2. Our attorney recommended that we delete reference to this ordinance and just stick with the chapter 21 regarding the pouts.
Wait a minute, what page again?
989, page 2.
Okay, thank you.
So now that will state, if the property is not served by a public sanitary sewer, a private on-site wastewater treatment system, pouts, in full compliance with chapter 21 of the Door County Code must serve the property. So we're relying on the county code as opposed to our specific ordinance. That was the only change that was made. And then Mr. Zettel was kind enough at your desk on this nice little spreadsheet. Hugh, if you want to explain that.
Sure. Last week, the chairman, the Plan Commission chairman provided a current draft of the Town of Liberty Grove ordinance for their short-term rental that is pending. Knowing that there's a lot of activity going on with short-term rental ordinances, some that are already in place, what I did, just to provide everyone a summary, was basically list the municipalities as identified by the Door County Tourism Zone Commission, that's on the left-hand side, and then basically list the various kind of categories of topics that appear in the various existing ordinances or ordinance drafts. So on the left-hand side, for example, Liberty Grove is in process. Bailey's Harbor, I believe, had a draft ordinance that was put on hold, I think, around July of last year, so they had completed it through the Plan Commission, and the town board tabled it. City of Sturgeon Bay has one in place. Village of Egg Harbor put one in place, I believe, July of last year, and then ours, of course, is in process as well. So then at the top has various, requirements or how they handle certain items, in their various ordinances. So I thought it would provide a roadmap, relative to, how ours or how other town ordinances kind of rack and stack.
I believe the town of Gibraltar is working on one. I looked at their website, I did not see any draft, but I'm pretty certain that the town of Gibraltar is working on an ordinance.
I talked to their town chairman, and it is in a discussion phase right now.
I found it interesting that the city puts a 6-night minimum on their accessory dwelling units. So I believe by accessory dwelling, they mean a
It could be like,
building separate
correct. It's
from
a
the
coach
main.
house. Yeah, like a
Yes,
coach house or
coach
above the garage. But they also have a stipulation, so for example, if the primary owner moved, say, above the garage, the attached garage that has living quarters, that 6-night minimum still applies to the primary
Oh.
dwelling.
Okay,
So if the owner moved out and said, okay, during the summer, I'll rent out my 4-bedroom house, the 6-night minimum gets applied to that 6-bedroom house. So they don't allow it to operate as a normal short-term rental in an R2 district. I think the other interesting thing in Sturgeon Bay is they also, on that accessory dwelling unit, they also use that maximum of 180 days, calendar days, as well on those units, in addition to the 6-night minimum.
So, if I may, there were, because you took the two ordinances, ours and theirs, and did this comparison, right?
I did it for all of
All
them,
these
that,
categories.
for all of them in all these
We
categories.
found, because I know this has come back from our attorney, and she talked to their attorney, so we didn't find anything else between the two that had any major difference.
Well, I sort of did, or at least I feel it's kind of.
You say their ordinance, Town of Liberty Grove?
Yes, sorry, I meant Liberty Grove, right?
So I made some notes, they do have a little bit more under definitions, neither here nor there. But I felt their enforcement paragraph had a little more oomph than ours, because they have the, and Hugh, you noted the 3 strikes you're out rule. And I don't know if that's something that we would wanna think about.
They had a 3 strikes rule, and in a prior version, they also had, they had a certain time frame in order for the STR owner to remedy an issue, but they removed that as well, so that's not in their updated draft, so they watered that down quite a bit. I think the other big difference is there's no notification. We require notification from the owner to the neighbors within a certain radius. They don't have that in the town at all, and they don't have a hard requirement relative to a local contact. They took that out. They say you may have a local agent, but they don't say if the owner does not live within X miles of the STR or live within Door County, which is what we changed ours to. So they have none of that as well. They basically put the onus on if there's any issues, that the resident has to call this office of the STR compliance that they have set up, because they're not even required to have the owners provide the contact information to neighbors. That's not a requirement either, so they took that out.
Right. Yes, I did notice that they do plan to establish an office to address short-term rentals, but I want to say we have like 70 and they have like 200?
No, they have
250?
They have 100 and, I want to say 185,
Yeah,
roughly.
like around 200. So that's a lot.
Yeah, they have roughly
and-
3 times.
Yeah. And then I also, their license, and Hugh noted it runs from January to December, which I don't know why, but anyway. They also asked that a copy of the inspection report be provided, of the DATCAP inspection, and we just asked for a copy of the permit, so neither here nor there. Maximum occupancy, I think we ask for the sanitary permit number, but we don't ask for maximum occupancy, I think, on our application.
On our application, we do.
Right. We
And-
do?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I see,
Proposed maximum occupancy, and then we also asked the question about pouts.
up right up there, yep. Proof of design, we just asked for the number.
The only other thing where it's different is, if you note, on pet requirements, I put no, because they just talked about putting pet rules in their property rules, or how you do pet management, but they do have an existing pet ordinance for the town of Liberty Grove, as well as anyone else here there where I have the asterisk. So they're still subject to the pet ordinance, right, that's in the town. They don't have anything additional to what their existing pet ordinance is. Our only additional item on a pet ordinance was this notion of, having pets leashed, especially since they're transient, since we don't have a leash requirement in our town. And I know that in their last plan commission meeting minutes, they had a specific citation, to put on the record, I believe, that, leash, there is no Wisconsin leash law or county leash law. But just for the record, one of the areas in looking at leash requirements, when you look at what is the other area that has the largest number of potential for transient pets, it's state parks. And the state of Wisconsin Park has regulations relative to requiring leashes on pets.
Right.
So even though the state may not have an ordinance or a regulation, the Department of Natural Resources has regulations relative to having pets leashed in state parks and in other certain park areas.
Right, I think we confirmed that, we could add that.
Yeah.
And then I also noted that they kept their outdoor events in
Yes.
and limiting it to 6, whereas we were,
Ours was kind of eliminated, yeah. So
recommended
events
to
is the
delete
other-
it, so.
Yeah, events,
Yeah,
but they also have an events ordinance.
Liberty Grove does.
Liberty Grove, right.
Okay.
Gibraltar has an events ordinance, Egg
Alrighty.
Harbor has an events ordinance.
You don't need
So,
any more, do you? You don't need beef for anything anymore.
so I think the events is probably the other, kind of big one when you talk about, things that they have required in there. Yeah, they're fairly explicit relative to the types of events, but they have an event ordinance, which I don't believe we do.
No, I don't think we do either. And then also, I mentioned to Hugh that the city council is meeting tonight, and on their agenda is an amendment to their tourist rooming house, but I didn't take the time to see what they were amending. It just referenced a section and a chapter, so I don't know what's coming out of the city tonight, but there were 2 items for amending their tourist rooming house.
How long has it been in place?
2000 and, I want to say 2016 or 2017, one of that. I want to say 2016.
But the bottom line is that we do not have any things that stick out that differ greatly between our 2 ordinances.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
Which is, the background behind here was to try and reduce our exposure to the eventual lawsuit that we've been threatened with by having our attorney talk to their attorney, have us compare our ordinance to their ordinance, to see if someone has a different spin on something that would leave us open. And we have gone so far as to solicit of their attorney any concerns that they might have with the legality of our document. So anyway, I'm appreciate the work, and I'm glad, we don't have a glaring
Right.
error, issue, or
Right.
concern. I mean, the other ones are, I live with that.
Yeah. I mean, on things where there were concerns raised at the public hearing, for example, around pets, for example, some of the ordinances, like, for example, Village of Egg Harbor has a limitation, of 3 pets. City of Sturgeon Bay has a limitation of 3 pets, and I think, and then Sturgeon Bay also has a leash requirement on certain conditions.
We think it's going to be tough to enforce night.
Well, but I'm just saying, where there was objections, there's existing ordinances on the books in the county that already have these, there's requirements in place.
So that's why it appears as if there's
There's really not. Yeah.
no answer.
There's
It's because they're covered by their own town ordinances.
a lot of, they're
or
covered by their own town
municipalities.
ordinances, yeah. And if we would have put the ordinance in there for pets relative to the requirements are, it would make ours look pretty benign.
I know, one of the questions that people have been asking me lately is, how come we didn't include the 180-day maximum? But of all the ordinances we've looked at from the various municipalities, do you recall, Hugh, if any of them had the 180 days? Some did.
Well, I take that back. No, none of them did. We had that in our original draft from the WTA, Wisconsin Town Association, and I think we rejected it on the first meeting. I think that was Derek's.
Wasn't it a
Derek's
logistics
comment.
nightmare kind of an aspect?
Well, and I think, it seemed a little heavy-handed, but there are some towns, for example, the town of Summit, which is in Lake Country, It's the municipality just south of Oconomowoc. They have a 6-night minimum, and they also have a 180-day requirement. I think Williams Bay, which used to have, which is, Walworth County used to have a specific ban, ordinance ban. Of course, they had to redo it because of
Right.
Act 59, and I think they put a 180-day in place as well. So there are municipalities that have that in place. More than a couple.
Okay, this is on Monday's board agenda for discussion only, correct?
Correct. I held off until this meeting so that, excuse me, that Amy Sullivan, the attorney, would have one last look at the ordinance and didn't know the timeline. So this will go back to her. It's unrevised
For any final advice from her, and then I'll put it on the July agenda for action.
So pending what her conversation may be with other attorneys, we may or may need.
She may change something, yeah. But right now, she's in sync with, I think, where we're at, so we've taken her suggestions, but we'll get it back to her. She's having those conversations, and if she thinks there's something else that needs to be modified, you know, we'll do it.
So you're not ready for a formal recommendation from the plan commission as yet, or pending?
You can,
response
the main difference, I won't do anything with it till July, until she gets it back. So if you're comfortable with what you have, then we'll send it off to Amy Sullivan, sorry, not Amy Flock, and have her review it, and if she's good, we'll bring it back to the town board in July. So,
I'm good with it the way it is. I mean,
I don't see us
we're ready
changing
to go, we can.
Here, that's the lawyer says that.
I can't envision that we would make any more changes unless they're mandated or advised. So,
Do we want a formal motion to that effect, or just, it's the consensus that we have it
I think,
in a final draft, subject to attorney review
Yeah.
once more? How's that?
that'd be fine.
If you want to
Sounds
skip,
good.
if you want to skip a formal motion.
That's fine in consensus, and then we don't have to, if she changes a word, we don't have to reconvene everybody. Although I know how much you enjoy this.
We're almost there, we're almost there.
Well, this is your only outlet for fun?
It was during COVID, this is about the only place I came in person.
Well, that's true.
All right, I think, if there's nothing else on that topic, I can't think of anything else. I lost my, here we go. Okay, future agenda items to be determined. Future meeting date to be determined.
When is the July town board meeting?
Pardon?
When is the July town board meeting?
19.
19th. Did you put those words in my mouth?
Like right
Must have vacation planned. It's the 19th,
It's
too.
July 19th.
July 19th, it's gonna be on a Monday at 7 p.m.
All right, so if
Thank
there's
you.
no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second by Laird. All right, all those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried, we are adjourned.